When the flat earthers, or flurfs, talk to the oblate spheroid earthers, or sane people, usually the question comes up about what about the parts of the Earth that are experiencing daytime when we're experiencing nighttime, and vice versa. I know when I was in Malaysia a few years ago, I had the point that we're standing on a spinning ball brought home to me very vividly. When I'd Skyped with my wife, she was getting ready to go to work while I was getting ready to go to dinner. And I remember showing her a picture of the horizon with the sun setting, and she responded by showing me a picture of the horizon with the sun rising. However, it should come as no surprise that the flurfs have an answer for that, because they have an answer for damn near anything else a rational person could come up with as an objection to their ridiculous theory. This one, though, is positively inspired. Their answer to the opposite hemisphere stuff is that Australia doesn't exist. That Australia is a figment of our collective imaginations was brought to my attention by a friend who, and the irony of this is not lost on me, lives in Australia. My comment to her was that I wish she'd told me long ago that she was non-existent. Friends shouldn't keep these things from each other. It was a little hurtful that all this time I've been talking to someone who's imaginary and I didn't even know it. As for the flurfs, the article my friend sent me has some explanations, if I can dignify them by that term, about what's going on apropos of Australia. Here's an excerpt. Everything you have ever heard about Australia was made up, and any pictures of it you've seen were faked by the government. I'm sure you have even talked to people on the internet who claim to be from Australia. They are really secret government agents who are surfing the internet to enforce these false beliefs. We are not entirely sure why the government made up an imaginary continent, or why it is trying to convince the world that this continent is real, but we can tell you that we know for a fact that Australia doesn't really exist. Another person said that anyone you know who claims to come from Australia is computer-generated, and that the hoax has been going on for centuries, even though back in the 18th century they kind of didn't have CGI. Australia is not real. It's a hoax, made for us to believe that Britain moved over their criminals to someplace. In reality, all these criminals were loaded off the ships into the waters, drowning before they could ever see land again. It's a cover-up for one of the greatest mass murders in history, made by one of the most prominent empires. So, that's kind of sinister. But what about people who actually claim to have gone there and seen the place? They have an answer for that too. The plane pilots are in on this secret. Instead of flying you to Melbourne or Sydney, they fly you to islands close nearby, or in some cases parts of South America, where they have cleared space and hired actors to act out as real Australians. Well, okay, maybe Australia doesn't exist, but what about the other nations in the region? Does Papua New Guinea not exist? I have to admit, when I've seen pictures of birds of paradise, they're weird enough to where they could well be a hoax. But what about China and Japan and Thailand and Indonesia? They're way closer to Australia time zone-wise than they are to us. Why have they signaled out Australia? Then there's Malaysia, which, as I said earlier, I've actually visited. Actually, I stopped on the way in Hong Kong, but who knows, maybe that'll be in South America. I didn't stay there long enough to check. But given that the flight back from Hong Kong to LaGuardia Airport in New York City took 16 hours, I can verify that the two places are nowhere near each other. Not that I'd expect this to be convincing to your average flurf, who has long ago jettisoned evidence as the road to understanding. Me, I'm trying to figure out what to do with my imaginary and/or computer-generated friend. Given the fact that she's the one who sent me the link, it's kind of rubbing my face in it, don't you think? On the other hand, if she's actually imaginary, I probably shouldn't worry about it. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. Our resources are down there, and please subscribe to our channel. Thank you.